Ćao svima, dobrodošli u prvu epizodu podcasta Zdrav razum. U svetu i u vreme u kojem manjka zdravog razuma svuda oko nas, ljudi koji, da kažemo, i dalje čuvaju neku dozu zdravog razuma se nađu poprilično začuđeni i usamljeni i u manjini. Međutim, ovim podcastom sam rešio da to polako počnem da menjam i da polako počnem da pokazujem ljudima da zapravo ljudi koji imaju zdravog razuma nisu toliko usamljeni kao što misli, kao što se u današnjem stanju društva i civilizacije čini. Ok, snimit ću neki poseban video gdje ću objasniti možda ideju podcasta i šta će sve biti u podcastu, ali za ovu prvu epizodu idemo odmah u meso, u kvalitet i u nešto nevjerovatno dobro. Dakle, u ovoj epizodi sam pričao sa momkom koji se zove Denis, koji je iz Holandije, ja mislim. Bavi se software inženjer i ono što je bitnije, jako dobar filozof, načitan jako što se tiče filozofije, s obzirom koliko je mlad, nevjerovatno inteligentan i pametan momak. I mnogo stvari sam u ovom podcastu naučio, a i verujem njemu stvari pomogao da poveže. O čemu smo pričali u ovom podcastu? Dakle, podcast je na engleskom. Jeste da je ovo prva epizoda ovog podcasta koji će biti uglavnom na srpskom, ali ova epizoda je na engleskom, tako da ako je to problem, u ovu epizodu probaj nekako da pogledaš i uključi titul, pa ima u opciji na YouTube da se prevede automatski i šta već, ako baš engleski problem. Za ljude kojima engleski nije problem, ova epizoda će te bukvalno oduševiti. Dakle, o čemu smo pričali? Pričali smo o transurfingu. Ako ne znaš ništa o transurfingu, može ti bude malo konfuzno, mada smo se trudili da primenimo, to jest da prilagodimo ljudima koji ne znaju ništa ni o transurfingu, ni potencijalno o stoicizmu, niti o procesu o kojem smo pričali, koji smo naučili obojica od jednog čovjeka koji se zove Raš Dibazar u nekom njegovom programu, tako da uglavnom jako korisno za ljude koji čak i nemaju veze sa bilo čim od ovoga, samo je bitno da znaš engleski i da neke najosnovnije koncepte znaš, a ako ih ne znaš objašnjavam ih u toku videa. Dakle, povezivali smo ideje iz transurfinga i iz stoicizma sa određenim procesom i sa određenim uvide koje smo naučili u tom programu. Tako da obavezno pogledaj video, uzmi olovku, svesku i izvlači beleške, jer ovaj video je kao neki mini kurs, bukvalno mini kurs života i nekih najbitnijih principa koji mogu da ti pomognu da promeniš svoj život i da mnogo nekih stvari razumeš. Dakle, nevjerovatno moćan podcast. Tako da, to je bilo to što se tiče ovog malo podužeg uvoda, jer s obzirom da je prva epizoda, uživaj u podcastu, napiši mi šta misliš u komentaru, dodaj me na Instagramu, piši tamo kako god. Ovo je samo prvo od mnogih, bit će još dosta zanimljivih ljudi u ovom podcastu. I to bi bilo to. Vidimo se već u sljedećoj epizodi ili u nekom narednom videu, a sad uzmi olovku, pripremi se i pokupi nešto iz ovoga, jer ima mnogo korisnih stvari. Dakle, ja sam već poslušao jednom cijelu epizodu i poslušat ću je ponovo, i ako sam bio, da kažem, pričao sam ja u njoj i izvlačit ću još beleške iz nje, tako da poslušaj, pogledaj, iskoristi, piši kako ti se svidjelo i uživaj. To bi bilo to. Vidimo se za sekund u samom podcastu. Ćao. Welcome to the channel. As we said, we'll do the introductory after. So, for the people watching, so I will post this on two channels: my Serbian one, my English one. For people watching, just tell us a little bit more about yourself, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, for sure. So, my name is Dennis, and I'm basically a very avid student of philosophy. And how we came to know each other was through our tribal meetings with a very special person that's leading that. And basically our tribal meetings are about character development. And today, basically, it's my pleasure to come on and talk a little bit about that, talk a little bit about philosophy, how it relates to character development, but also philosophy in general, in our tribals meetings, we have a special kind of symbol, which is the IMC coat of arms. And I'm going to be talking about that a little as well. And I'm going to be relating that to the transurfing concepts.
Amazing. It's a pleasure to have you. So yeah, basically because I've been doing some videos on transurfing and what we've been going through the Lions Den. So the program is called Lions Den. We'll mention it multiple times probably, and at the end I'll maybe talk a little bit more so people can join if they want to. So yeah, and I've been talking about transurfing a lot, so we're just gonna kind of mix it up and see what comes from there. So yeah, it's funny to me, I'm just gonna mention one thing that I noticed when I woke up this morning. I think I've read it somewhere, but it's stuck in my mind, how antique philosophers, like they've had most of what life should be, like good life should be, figured out. And
very true.
Yeah, and like,
yeah,
but for some reason, everybody just chose to ignore it or forget it, or it's a like some kind of conspiracy, who knows? But like it's forgotten, and now like psychologists are trying to reinvent the wheel, but right?
I totally agree with you, man. It's hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, it's hidden in plain sight.
Everyone could find it if they wanted to, but it's a little bit like mathematics. It's nobody really gravitates towards it, but the field is very, very interesting, you know. And with philosophy, it's a little bit more accessible because it's through words that we're getting taught things. And to me, that's just the greatest thing, because you get to learn the thoughts and the experiences of people that have already gone through it, and they really impart their wisdom to you, you know?
Yeah. And when I heard you speak at Lions Den, I'm just gonna turn this off because of the sound. When I heard you speak in Lions Den, analyzing the IMC coat of arms and then relating it to Stoic virtues, I was doing the process. So for people who do not know, in Lions Den, in the program, we have a certain process that we go through in phase 1, and it helps you actually integrate lot of parts of the Stoic philosophy, and also helps you like integrate some things that not come from Stoicism, but they come from Arash himself. And it's his creation, so it's basically like a really awesome mixture of like nature and also like philosophy. So yeah, like there is a process, and I was going through the process, just having great results, like awesome results, and feeling amazing, feeling really powerful. But I did not really relate it to any philosophy. Like I had some mindsets about this stuff like that, but then when you spoke, something clicked. Will like ad vitam aut culpam really clicked for me at that talk, and then like days or even months, I'm not sure, like month or month and a half after, or even 2, I'm not sure how many days, but like multiple weeks, when I decided to create a post about eudaimonia for my Instagram, I just got to research it. I just got to research it more so I can create like a more quality post. Like when it comes to eudaimonia, I had it figured out because I felt it, but like Stoic virtues and that, I wasn't really, didn't really know exactly, didn't really read on how it works. And when I read about it, I was blown away. I'm like, oh, this all clicks right now. Like the process, what you talked about, like everything, it just makes sense. It just makes so much sense. So maybe we can get into that. Like now it's not even a secret, like that beasting is a process. And then I think on the recent calls, Arash shared most important parts of Beast phase 2 even, so we can like just get into IMC coat of arms, and maybe explain it a little bit and start relating it to maybe transurfing and go from there.
For sure, brother. So to start out, when you look at the IMC coat of arms,
I'll put it up somewhere on the screen. So yeah.
Amazing. So the first symbol, that's basically the origin point from which I'm going to speak, is the symbol of a lion.
Mhm.
And during this talk that we had at the Lion's Den, I told the group the lion represents the Stoic virtue of courage.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is because to look at life, at your goals as a beast of prey.
Mhm. Can you just
By doing
explain a
that,
little bit what it means? What do you mean by beast of prey? I
okay.
did not
So I
get that part.
specifically,
Mhm.
yeah, of course. So I specifically say beast of prey because a beast of prey is an animal that actually goes out and hunts something.
Mhm. Okay.
You see, so not every animal is a hunting animal.
Yeah.
So a beast of prey is an animal that goes out and stalks its survival goals,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So courage is closely related to that. And I related another uh, aphorism, which is memento mori, to it.
Yep.
And memento mori is remember that you will die.
Mhm.
Through that understanding, you can unlock a certain, the word is alacrity. That's basically a willingness, a cheerful willingness to engage with life.
Mhm.
And that's how you unlock it, through memento mori. Because if you go to the end and you would look at your own funeral, what would be the things that you would want people to say about you, right?
Mhm.
If they if if you have the life well lived and they said great things about you, that would be a vision that would attract you, right?
That would be something. What did you say? That would be
A vision that would attract you
a
towards
vision.
it.
Vision. Yeah, a vision
Yeah,
that will
a
attract
vision,
you. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
for sure. So through memento mori, you can begin to get the inklings, the beginnings
Mhm.
of what courage is,
Yeah.
because you are going to start loving your life, because
Mhm.
life is temporary.
Yep.
If you put things in perspective, in only 20,000 days, 54 years will have passed.
Mhm.
That means that if you look at 20,000 days, that's not really much. And
Mhm.
that's with at 45 years,
Mm.
that's basically the end of your life in the case of most people. So just through that understanding and through that urgency that comes with it, you
Mm.
can begin to get a sense of what courage is.
Mm.
Now, what is courage truly? It's when you love something so much that the obstacles do not matter anymore.
Yep.
And we,
Yeah.
as people that have joined Lions Den, right? We sort of have a common enemy. And this common enemy is, the best way I can describe it is, well, let me think about it. A concept from Nietzsche. He talked about the last man or the final man.
Mhm.
And these were basically people that had already assumed that they knew everything. They had nothing left to learn. And they basically became very sheepish people that didn't
Yeah.
want to grow,
Mhm.
you know? And that's just, when we look at that, we basically are disgusted by it,
Mm.
you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And by renouncing that, we can begin to get the sense of what is truly the most important thing to, as a beast, like the beast in the coat of arms, to stalk. And what is that most important thing? It's the opposite of being a last man, the opposite of being a final man. It's being a person that truly loves character development. So what do we hunt? We hunt our character flaws. We look at their character flaws, and instead of turning away from them and saying, hey, we already know everything, no, we go right into them and we say, hey, this character flaw can become a great goal to work around. And relating this to transurfing.
Before we go into that, I'll just like mention a few examples that I got. First thing, for maybe for people who never even related, even maybe for some of members of the Lions Den who did not really do the research on, like we have like 4 Stoic virtues that have been like down for, there are like more virtues, but like 4 Stoic virtues: courage, temperance, wisdom, and justice. And when we get to justice, I'll have to ask you some questions, but like we have those 4, and on IMC logo, or like coat of arms, we have like also four symbols, and there are like four like sayings from Stoicism, and one that Arash added. It's been around, but it's not been like it does not go with those 3, like the justice one, ad vitam aut culpam.
It's very unique.
Yeah, it's very unique. So just for people who do not know about Stoic virtues, like you have 4 of those, you can read about them, and then like this will make more sense, if you know where we are going with it. Also,
for sure.
The great example that I got in my mind when you were speaking about memento mori, because even before Lions Den, I know about memento mori, carpe diem, amor fati. It was a big part of my life, especially memento mori. I have this.
Beautiful.
I have this. I cannot. There is like a thing called life calendar. It has like a bunch of small boxes, and it has basically like 90 columns, and then like 52 rows. It basically represents all of your weeks in your entire life, if you were to live up to 90. So basically, sometimes when I did coaching with people, I would take that image here on the screen, and then I would basically cross like 20, 25, or however many years they have. I would just cross it out.
That's so sick.
Yeah. and then like I would be like, and you do not really live like, if you really keep your health super straight, and then super straight as the new movement, like if you keep your health super straight, and then like you are a bit lucky, and you live past 80 or 70, and you live it healthy, then you can use that, but do not really count on your life after 75. And that's me like being generous. Some people do not live even up to that point. So I just crossed that part out because it goes to 90, and then you're left with like this part. And I'm like, and they're like, okay, wow, this is scary. I'm like, I'm not done. I'm like, so now we cross the third out of that, because you're going to sleep at least the third, and then and then the next third you're gonna waste on stupid stuff like social media, and like you're gonna waste it on like being in your toilet. I mean, you can learn to enjoy each moment, but it's not gonna be what you want to be doing, like why we are here. And it's usually when we are trying to get people to focus and like be productive, stuff like that. And basically
that, bro.
you get left with like a super small part of your life, like just a few boxes, like maybe 3 like 4 or 5 levels, and you're like,
whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that, bro.
Yeah,
I can really see that.
and whenever I sometimes like I forget, even though I have it here, and then when I go through it with people, even I have that whoa inside of me, because whenever I go through that exercise, it's not scary, just it's just how do you say, it wakes you up, it snaps you back to reality.
Sure does.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I wanted to mention. And another thing, when you were talking about I just noticed one more thing on that. When I have like my priorities straight, I cannot get, most of the days I cannot even get to my like third or fourth priority. Like only 2 of them I get to fulfill. So I really need to get them straight. Like university, as you are studying, and business, that's all. If I cannot put anything else in my day, sometimes those 2 even struggle between themselves. So I just eliminate everything to do my workout, if I have to do it, and like I'm doing it right now after phase 1. So I do my workouts because I know it's healthy for me, and that's why oversteps all of them after some time. But like other than that,
Yeah.
nothing else much can come. Like I haven't played my guitar in lots of years, and I decided that like consciously, and stuff like that. You just do not have time for things. And another thing, when you were
That's
talking
great,
about,
Yeah.
and when you were talking about memento mori and beast of prey, a great example are for that whole idea and embodying that idea are the fucking Vikings. And of course, my information on Vikings comes from the TV show The Vikings, not on actually reading about Vikings.
Okay.
But at least those people from the TV show, like they're as you said, they have the vision of how people want them to be remembered, and they also have the vision of Valhalla, and they can only fulfill that vision if they live in the moment and they live with courage in the moment. So basically, it's like
Powerful.
it's really really cool mind hack. It's like a shift in perspective, in paradigm, where they go
It is.
100% in that moment, in the battle, because they care more about the vision, and they like feel that vision, so they go with courage, and fear does not stop them. So it's just a cool example
Exactly.
that crossed my mind.
It's a
So
great image. Yeah.
yeah. So you wanted to relate the first part of the coat of arms to
Yep.
transurfing, and yeah, I'm waiting to
Transurfing.
hear.
Okay, so um, I'm not an expert in transurfing in any way, shape, or form, but um, I'm very good at making connections
Yep.
and seeing correspondences.
Mhm.
So if we would look at a transurfing concept called internal intention, right? That's basically all the things that are your desires. It's your internal intention. And through the use of well, let's see, through the use of memento mori, we turn desires into a very strong longing. You see? So internal intention is basically what gets you off your ass in the morning. What are the things that motivate you, right? And through this perspective of the beast of prey, we go to the highest goal. Like if you would look at Maslow's hierarchy, we are actually going to the top of the hierarchy, and we're saying we want character development, we want self-actualization. You see? And usually when people set goals, they look at everything below self-actualization. So the need for security, the need for food, shelter, of course, those things are important.
Yep.
But we are looking at the character, the character that we want to self-actualize, that brings all those things underneath it. And that's why we make that the most important goal. So if we would relate this to transurfing, we are basically setting an internal intention of getting all those goals, like a desire for security, a desire for wealth, for being esteemed, right? All those things are coming as a byproduct. So that's basically what I wanted to relate with internal intention. You see?
I would have to like, no offense, I would have to slightly disagree, because I've been just reading about transurfing more, and maybe and
course.
how I would relate the building of the character. I like not just reading, but like we've done some coaching on it, and like watched plenty of videos, and been involved in the community like a lot. There was 1 year when I was just doing that. So how I would relate the character building to transurfing, that would be, so in transurfing there is this concept of, and it's kind of in his next book, not in the transurfing. There is a book called Tafti the Priestess. I have it somewhere, but I do not see it right now. So it's basically just the techniques from the transurfing, right? Just full book of techniques written in a really interesting way, like high priestess of Ishtar of some temple in ancient Egypt is writing it back to us through Vadim Zeland. Basically, is what's going on. And in a very like high, like royal, like my calls people who read it my little snails, you know. So so basically how I would relate it to that. There is a really interesting concept that, so in Transurfing he talks a lot about timelines and how you how you identify your goal, and that goal is basically just on a different timeline. And they're not like next to each other. They're like, you know how they represent timelines in certain movies, they're like intertwined, and
Intertwined.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, this timelines future is your timeline's past, and it's like really complex. But like you just identify your goal, it's on some of the timelines, right? So
Yeah.
and the character that you, and then you basically choose the character that lives in that timeline. And
That's yeah.
yeah, and then from there you embody, you choose and you move into that character. So basically he calls it occupy a mannequin. It's like there is your soul, which is us, and then there are like mannequins that we play. So in a timeline that's close to this one, like I'm a guy, like basically I shifted to a guy who's more buff because of the routine, but you know, I shifted to, it was almost effortless in some sense because I shifted, you know. And like it was, I experienced it as a slow shift or maybe a faster shift, depending on if the changes in the physical or the changes in the something else, like maybe money wise it can be really fast, you know, or knowledge wise or life situation wise. But yeah, that's how I would relate the character building in Transurfing. What they, when they say inner intent, he really, or at least Vadim Zeland, when he says inner intention, he's really referring to something like not that not wanted. Inner intention is when we are trying in Transurfing books to change our outside reality just through pure muscle.
Yeah, I see that.
Yep.
And I want to say,
yep,
we don't really have a disagreement there, because what I
okay.
was trying to get at was that trying to get all those things like a desire for security, all those lesser goals, that's basically using internal intention. That's like, I need to go get it. I need to go get it.
Yes.
But what I was trying to get at was that if you go to the top of the hierarchy, if you go to self-actualization, if you go to the character development, then you actually bypass that internal intention.
Yes.
So
And it's also
really
interesting. It's also interesting that Arash has this saying, desire, and
exactly.
and basically that's what inner intention does. It's like desires you from your throne. Basically, like when you're on your golden lifeline, as Vadim Zeland calls it, that's basically like a lifeline that resonates with your soul more in the Transurfing books. And you feel it, like everything flows. You feel it. I'm here, you know. And when you start getting attached to that, when you start getting attached to that and having these little inner intentions and like, you know, start being a little pity self, you get desired. You basically get pulled to a different timeline. Yeah.
I see that, brother.
That's basically the same thing we're speaking. Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing how it relates.
And to touch upon desire for a moment for the listeners, what is meant is that if you look at the word desire, sire is actually is a title of someone that's a royalty. And if you are desired, basically you are losing your sense of royalty. And how do you lose it? Because you are literally degrading yourself through goals that go against, well, what do they go against? They go against your
soul, right?
I would say that, yes. They go against your true spiritual journey. Because you're getting stuck in them. So yeah, thank you, brother.
Yeah. So
your soul is exactly right. And well, moving on to the next concept, which is the tent. Well, the tent is a very great symbol, and it's related to the concept of Amor Fati. And the Stoic virtue of temperance. So I should unpack temperance first, I think. Temperance was originally referred to as a perfect balance of the spirited, the reasonable, and the hungry, appetitive parts of the soul. And that balance created a soundness of mind. So it created sanity. And that's what the original word for it was Sophrosyne. And later it got translated into temperance. Now, this idea of temperance was best explained by the philosopher Epictetus. He said, in life you have to endure and renounce.
Mhm.
And that's actually how you can retain your sanity in this world. So let me explain it a little bit better.
Mhm.
You have to love your faith by enduring and renouncing. So what would enduring be? Enduring would be saying the obstacle is the path, and I love that.
Mhm.
I love that the obstacle is the path.
Mhm.
Because it's pro survival. It raises my survival if I relate to this obstacle in the right way. That's enduring, and you love that. You love that process of growth. Sure, it's a little bit painful, but you understand, like, yes, this is going to strengthen me.
Mhm.
And what do you renounce? You renounce the opposite of that, which is seeking instant gratification. When you seek instant gratification, you are basically you're basically building habits that slowly weaken yourself.
Mhm.
Instant gratification is like the extreme example of someone that's all the way on the path of instant gratification. Is like a drug addict or something.
Yep.
That person has literally weakened themselves because they just chased that good feeling,
Hmm.
and now it has gone against their survival. So basically, temperance is nothing else than survival awareness.
Mhm.
When you have great temperance, you have very great survival awareness. You see?
Mhm.
And that's what the tent represents. The tent represents that you are very comfortable in doing things that are pro survival, in
Mhm.
doing the fortifying but really tough obstacles and going into them. And you put your tent there, and you put your tent there until you are comfortable with it. And that's how you transmute yourself. That's your inner alchemy.
Mhm.
That's how you grow.
Yep.
You see? And um, that's how you demonstrate to yourself that you actually do love your faith. Because when things get hard, when things get challenging,
Yep.
you show the world and you show yourself, hey, I can take this. I can put my tent here,
Yeah.
and I'm totally comfortable in it.
Yep. Yep.
You know?
Mm.
And then a saying that I've coined myself is, it's precisely because our environment continuously challenges us that we are stimulated to organize ourselves at a higher level. You see?
Hmm.
And that's basically what a tent represents. We seek those challenges,
Yeah.
and the mindset behind it is, we look at the obstacles in our life and we say, it's not happening to us, it's happening for us.
Mhm.
You see?
Mhm.
And I like to relate it to the concept of outer intention.
Mhm.
But if you have something to comment on it
Yeah,
first,
for sure, for sure. I'm
of course.
just trying to make connections to see how it relates. You can go and try and like explain what your vision of it relating to outer intention is.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah, I'm just.
So my understanding of outer intention
Mhm.
is when um, external things start aligning for you.
Yep.
Right? So like where you first didn't know where you had to go, now you are starting to see possibilities of, hey, if I go into this direction, I get further towards my goal.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually engineer outer intention by creating win-win situations.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You can so what kind of win-win situations? Well, when you remove your own intentions and you look at the world and say, hey, how can I be of service there and service there? And by me being of service there,
Mm-hmm.
they start to win, they start to gain survival.
Yep.
Right? That's when you are starting to access this idea of outer intention.
Yeah.
You're not really occupied with this, oh, me, I need to have this, need this. No, you're
Mm-hmm.
actually starting to get into a sense of service.
Yeah.
And people often resist that because they're too occupied with themselves. And this relates to the Stoic virtue of temperance, because things, well, let me think about how I'm going to put it.
Mm-hmm.
When people see things appearing, they often resist it because they think it's they think it's an obstacle, but actually it's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually almost always an opportunity for you to engineer an outer intention, for you to engineer a win-win situation in the world out there.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get at. Mm-hmm. It's also closely related to the concept of people that are too invested in the scripts, the preconceived notions that they have. And because they are too invested in the preconceived notions, they see an event happening, but they do not realize that that event, which looks like an obstacle, is actually an opportunity. And that opportunity of growth is an opportunity for you to practice that outer intention. That's a practice of removing yourself from the equation and just looking at, hey, how can I go to service? Mm-hmm. And that's basically how I related the two concepts.
Yep, exactly. Another thing I would add is in Transurfing, there is this concept of coordination of intention, and that basically says that when there is an obstacle, when things are going good, you notice that things are going good, and you basically just feel grateful. Like any super crazy emotion other than just like gratitude or love for things going good is bad, because it creates, I mean, it's not bad, it's just not smart, because it creates polarity. So when things are going bad, you're going to feel the opposite. And also Rush speaks a lot on this, but inner coordination of intention is when things are going bad also, you shift your perspective into this is opportunity to learn, this is opportunity to grow. And when things are going good, you acknowledge that they are going good, and you're just grateful for them. Things are going bad or whatever, how we it's basically like how you would not like them to go. You have your own idea how things should go. Yeah,
exactly. So that's what I meant with preconceived notions.
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
Then you coordinate your intention. You're like, let's see what I can, let's grow from this, like just shift to it. He calls it in a Tufti, the book, the advantage method. You try to seek the advantage in every moment. You're like, okay, this did happen, what's like the opportunity here, like what can I get from this?
Very powerful.
Yeah, and like it's really powerful to read it from that book, but then like when you actually figure out how Stoics look at it, and then you fuse the two, it's like It's like next
Yep.
level. Yeah, amazing. And also one
It's
thing.
like,
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, I wanted to say it's like a very detailed way of saying the obstacle is the path.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The advantage method is basically saying the obstacle is the path.
Yes, it's
and this is how
basically
you
the
do
same
it.
thing. Yeah, it's basically the
Yeah.
same thing. He just has his own approach. He explains how that will go. Doing it that way will get you to the outer intention, and will get you to the desired lifeline, and like just get you to resonate better. And Stoics do it because of the character growth, but as we already talked, like where I thought that we do not understood each other. The character growth, or like step into the character, is like the ultimate goal of the both, like philosophies, like both the Transurfing and the just being that thing that you want to be, being that person that you want to be. Did you ever hear about the concept of be to have? You probably heard about that. Be to have.
It's like the possession to own, right?
Cycle of creation. So almost all people focus on what they want to have.
Okay.
Right. And then like, and when you like buy courses or like you ask for advice, we all ask like, what can I do to have this? Like, tell me, like, what is the process? Like, what is the workout routine, if it's for fitness, or like what days, how much water should I drink, or like what business tactics can I use? And then
I see.
but nobody actually figures out that, hey, that person lives just a different reality than you, because of everything, because of who they are,
because of his identity. Because of his identity.
Yeah. So like that's the B part. If you can change that, like who you are, then everything else starts flowing. And then you have those guys like, and I like Beast Phase 1 a lot, because what I think Beast Phase 1 does, and I'm that person myself, you show yourself that through inner, that's at least how I see it, the true inner intention, that you have access to such a strong inner intention that you can create outer intention, if that makes sense. Because because in Transurfing, it's like a taboo, like do not try to use inner intention to navigate your reality, you'll crash. But in Beast Phase 1, you're like fuck you motherfuckers, I'm just gonna do this. And basically, you do not feel like it, you do it. You do not feel like waking up, you do it. You do not do it for your whole life, but like you keep doing it for like 6 months to a year, and you just see that you have that power as well. And it's not like the easier approach to creating whatever you want to create, but you see that you do have that power, and to that you like conquer yourself. And that's when the phase 2 came in. And Arash said, like in some of the private videos that we got, like for phase 2, he said some things I'm not gonna share, but like basically he said along the lines of, hey, I'm just releasing a little bit of my grip. When I went, I transmuted all my pain or whatever happened into fierceness and courage. I'm releasing, and I'm just gonna start going with the flow more. We'll get to that, but it's basically like you show yourself that you can do it. And there are those guys like David Goggins, I always give an example, who basically had really fucked up identity, like limiting beliefs, traumas, like all things bad that you can imagine. And then that action just resonated with him, and he embraced that small, it's always alive, that small thing that you can never release, and like that what's you actually, that wants to manifest itself. And tell what you say, I learned that word from you, and then I researched it. Entelechy. Yeah. So that part that wants to manifest, and basically he just went, and through the action that he took, he slowly but painfully changed who he is. Like now he does, he's that guy now. But there's like period where he was confused. You can see in some of his old videos, he always used to fight himself to change it. But that's why his mind is like poof. If you want to create and great life, it's not the best approach. You can do it much easier like more wisdom, right? Not just brute force.
Yeah, for sure.
But also it's good to have access to that brute force. Just it gives you something.
Well, if I can expand on that,
yeah,
to just encapsulate what the reason for phase one is, it is for you to learn to applaud yourself. And through all those actions, you are basically showing yourself that you have discipline.
Yeah.
And discipline is temperance. You are basically showing yourself, hey, I have this virtue, and because I have this virtue, I'm going to validate myself for it. And I'm not going to seek external validation. You see? And that's basically the use of going through that hardship. People always try to avoid it, but there's a great utility value, meaning it's very useful in having those experiences of being someone that's basically a warrior, right? You're going to battle.
Yeah, you're pushing against reality as a warrior.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's actually value in that.
Yeah.
So and the value is basically you learn to get self-esteem, and that also builds your character in the end. Later on, when you've gone through all of that, of course you're going to be effortless. You're going to have a very easy way of life. But I actually believe that it's a prerequisite to go through that first, to go through those hardships first, because if you don't, you will basically, well, how you call it?
You fear them, right?
You will fear them, and you will succumb to them. So that's it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you fear them. Something crossed my mind. I wasn't sure what. Yeah, but like whatever you do not conquer when you are, and you build on unstable structure,
exactly.
then somebody can poke that part of you, and then you crumble.
For sure.
When I talked to Pete yesterday, sorry. Yeah, when I
talked to Pete, I wanted to say that actually leads. Oh, sorry, brother. Please go ahead.
Because I'll go because of the lag. That's why. Yeah. When I talked to Pete yesterday, I remember this example, how monks, like they conquer themselves. When it comes to women, they just never conquer that part of themselves. And I know I've seen Christian monks like in Serbia, like in our when there are like certain events in like the monasteries. I mean, they still look, right? They're still men. They still look. And you just see that they have not, even though they conquered many parts, like, like the belief, like each yoga, like the belief, the work, like they do everything, but like they did not conquer that part. So it's still an unstable structure in some sense. Like you could very send true. A very, very attractive woman, maybe, who can like have those values but be like attractive and flirtatious, and it would mess up somebody in there, or it would mess up the structure.
Whole world.
Yeah,
their whole world will collapse.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
It's true.
So yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Okay, for sure, brother. So I wanted to say that actually leads into the virtue of wisdom. And we represent that through the wheel, right? And the wheel is basically the symbol of maturation, meaning we mature. What do we mature? We mature what we've learned in that phase of temperance. Now we're going through a cyclical process, like in a wheel. And through our daily routine, through our daily schedule, we will start to gain more wisdom. And what is wisdom? Wisdom is when you can distinguish between what's good, what's bad, and what's indifferent, what doesn't matter. So by going through your life and building habits and building skills and doing it over and over again, you attain greater and greater levels of wisdom. You gain greater levels of making distinctions of what is useful in the skill, what is wrong, what's the wrong technique in the skill, and what do I not even need to pay attention to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we do in the beast process is we create a routine that matures, or it familiarizes ourselves with all the negativity inside of us, all the obstacles that are out there that trigger that negativity inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
We are getting very familiar with it, and we
Mm-hmm.
face ourselves before we face the day,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that's what the wheel is supposed to do. And that's how you mature yourself. That's how you gain wisdom. You see?
Mm-hmm.
And what I wanted to say, you talked about how there's an unstable structure and how you can collapse really quickly. Well, wisdom is the way how you protect yourself against that.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to relate it to the concept of defeating pendulums.
Mm-hmm.
Pendulums are like, they're memes, they're mental genes,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
they're ideologies, they're philosophies
Mm-hmm.
that have certain adherents, they have certain followers,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And those people act on those ideologies.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And some ideologies are actually, well, what would I call them? They're anti-survival,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that they, going back to the Stoic virtue of temperance, they make their followers seek instant gratification, for example, right? And that's going against survival in a very, very subtle way.
Mm-hmm.
And one moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically how we begin to crash. Those pendulums, their followers, they come into our lives, we get an interaction with them, and because of their philosophy, they act in a certain negative manner, and they trigger something inside of us, and now we begin to crash, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's basically because it's a lesser philosophy. If you think about it, they come
Mm-hmm.
from a frame of a lesser philosophy, and they try to pull you down into it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I view those pendulums.
Mm-hmm.
When I started reading the Transurfing,
Mm-hmm.
those pendulums are basically like followers of a certain way of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and they try to sway you from your center.
Okay, that's
But
very
you
nice.
need to retain your center.
I
right?
never thought about it that way. It was always weird to me why he called them pendulums, because there is a term for that in the occult called egregor. It's basically a thought
Indeed.
form, and he explains it a lot like a thought form, but he might as well be calling it pendulum because it sways you from your path. That's so true.
Yeah,
Yep, that's
for
so true.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly it, brother. So what I'm thinking about, what it was called, I think it was called induced transition.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when they knock you into a lower
Mm-hmm.
lifeline.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about what lifelines are from my frame of mind.
Yeah, amazing.
Lifelines.
Mm-hmm.
Lifelines are basically, the negative lifelines are lifelines that make you survive less well. And the positive lifelines, the ones that we want, are the other lifelines that put us in a state of optimal survival. So I'm thinking from it from a frame of survival.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And by being wise, you are actually being the person that taps into proper survival, and you mature that. And by doing that, you get onto that lifeline, that proper lifeline, more consistently and more consistently.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Yep. That's amazing. But yeah, I did not ever think about it, but it sounds like it's proper. It sounds like it's proper. It feels like it's proper. Um,
Awesome.
yeah. So pendulums. One thing that I would add, like that they represent nothing what you said. Like I agree with everything you said, but like the concept of pendulums, it's like
Mm.
in case you never really thought about it, it's like when people gather and they have certain goals, like mutual goals, then they form a thought form, like an egregor, a thought form. And that thought form now acts as an organism, as a new formed organism. When that thought form grows, for example, an organization, then certain parts of the thought form start to specialize the same way like organs specialize in their functions, you know. Because I study organization, so I kind of related those two. So they specialize, and there are two goals of each pendulum. It's like to get more adherence, to grow as same. They want to grow the same as every alive organism. And then there is another goal, which is to like make a firmer structure. So that's when you have so like also, because in organization theory, like sciences, an organization has a strict definition, like it has to have a certain goal, like it has to have certain parameters, like that it needs to fulfill like to be a certain organization. For example, crowd in a riot is not an organization by that definition, but it is an pendulum. It is an pendulum by a definition of the Transurfing books. And basically in what Transurfing books would say, if that riot were to live on, it would eventually start getting more structure, and like it would become an organization by the organization terms. Anyways, why I was speaking that is like you define pendulum as a thought form, as a memes, which is true, because and thought form is like a set of memes, a set of ideas that all those people adhere to. But what's also amazing is that those people, in how he explains it, they start getting influenced by the thought form. So even though they created the thought form, yep, we're back. Just you're muted now. Yeah. Somebody
Awesome.
broke, either me or you, but yeah, it froze. So what I was saying, the last thing, I guess you heard, like the pendulum, it has the two goals, of course, and then and then what I was gonna say is it's a thought form. What I was gonna say, I kind of forgot. My mind just went blank. Let me see.
Pendulum.
So you were saying that it like throws away.
It sways you.
Yeah, it sways you. Yeah. From what I was gonna say is that thought form that develops, it becomes, even though those people created it, it starts influencing the people who are its parts.
A part of it.
So it's basically like the whole organism. Like my organism is created by the parts that are me, but now this organism, when needed, will influence the certain parts. So it's not those parts that have the control, even though they are the parts, right? Now they are dependent on the organism. And that's what pendulum is trying to do to us. It tries to make us dependent on the pendulum. And my theory of the whole thing that's going on in the world right now is that it's just the battle of the pendulums. And basically what the pendulum tries to do is it sucks energy out of you to the point where you are dependent on it. And if you see, I'm not gonna like go say any buzzwords because of the YouTube, but what's going on right now, it's basically creating dependence on the whole. So at some point, so at some point, you do not have your individuality in a sense where you can influence the pendulum, but you are basically, you cannot ever step out. Like this, any part, any muscle of mine cannot step out of this body and be on its own. It would die, you know.
Exactly. I see that.
So that's basically like what the pendulum is trying to do, and it's trying to kind of suppress, now when there is fear of people waking up to what's going on. I mean, they're not really going to think about it this way, but they're going to wake up to some extent and think about it some way. But it strikes fear into the pendulum itself. So when people say they do this or they do that, I mean, there are probably people behind who are like kind of aware and influencing things. But even more than that, in the Transurfing books, what Vadim would say, it's like the pendulums. So it would be funny if there were not like certain people who do things, but it's like the pendulum, and then each person is doing their own thing. Like there are some people who are more aware that they're doing maybe like better things, whatever. But like it would be funny if the pendulum just organizes them to act in a way where other people are influenced. So we do not even see the enemy if that would be the case. It's not like a certain group of people manipulating the world. It would be just, hey, we are fighting this thought form that has its own goal, and now we're just influenced by that. That would be funny.
Those core influencers could actually be thought of as very influential people that are also a slave to that meme, to that pendulum. Right?
Yes. And
so
I
agree with you.
They're just given more power because they will do their role better. So for example, my brain is given more power over my body than my whatever foot or something.
Your pinky toe.
Yeah. Just because it will do its job better, right? So that's basically how. And that then what we recently talk about in Lines then is like you have the people like celebrities of today who are just there to sway the masses, which basically relates to this. They're like there to sway the masses, influence them with destructive memes, which then in return decrease their survival, and then and get them to act in the ways that we just spoke how we should not like be acting if you want to optimize for survival and for optimal life. And they're put there by those in power, but those in power may as well be, there are some certain people, but they're also influenced by the pendulum as a whole, right? So I've had this, when I really researched this about pendulums and really thought about this, I had this idea, and this is just a out there idea. I never heard Vadim Zeland speak about it, but I'm just going to share it now, and maybe you can if you ever think of anything of it, you can share it with me, or maybe now or whatever. Like what if a pendulum became self-aware? If that even makes sense. Like I had this thought, like if a pendulum even became self-aware, and then it figured, so the same way that organizations at some point, at first they watched look at it, each man as a mechanical part. So those are like the first organizations, like Frederick Taylor and those guys in the Industrial Revolution. So they were like, hey, we will just gonna look as our organization as a big machine, and people are like parts, and then like give them 10 hours to work, like very inhumane and like approach. But then eventually,
so I actually wrote
sorry
I wanted to say I actually wrote about on my Instagram. I have some posts that actually specifically relate to what you're saying right now. Especially the part about the memes and how they take control of people. And to me, they might as well be self-aware. It doesn't make a difference to me if they are or are not, but they might as well be, because like from the esoteric knowledge, when you look at the egregor,
egregor, yeah.
How do you say it? Egregor. Yeah, okay. So when you look at that, they talk about an egregor actually possessing the ability to become self-aware. So you're right on with that. You're spot on with that. So it's very possible, and if you understand that this is a spiritual, it's like a spiritual battle. If you think about it, you could also ascribe. Well, let me think about it. You could think of those memes as actual beings. You see, and those beings are trying to gather followers. So that's how I look at it.
I will have some books to send you from this guy called Slavinsky, who only has Serbia, really cool stuff in Serbia, like in Serbia, and really cool occult stuff. But I usually do not send it to anybody. It's kind of, but I'll send it to you. Anyways, and then maybe write you something on that. That I
For sure.
It's gonna take the whole conversation off of this. That's why I'm not gonna
Yeah,
do
man.
it right now. But my thought process was, if they became self-aware and they realized that, so there is basically our human spirit, or whatever you want to call it. Like, we do not want to be, or at least some of us, apparently some people really want to be like subjugated to
Yeah.
relieve their complete lives, just to be dependent on a higher structure and just live as
It's
whatever
easier.
it's easier. Yeah, it's easier. So there are some people, but like there are many people who will not. There was like worldwide riots yesterday, 20th. There was one in Belgrade, one in, like, it's supposed to be in each country, in each main city capital in the world. Like, there are those people,
Yeah.
like, and many more people are speaking and like are not agreeing to this. So my thought process is, if a pendulum became self-aware enough and it was like, hey, I can actually optimize better if I find some kind of a middle lane, but, or like some kind of a way to make this maybe work better, instead of acting like instead of this totalitarian, like, suppressive approach.
Yeah.
And maybe like, yeah, like maybe it could act better. But I think for that to happen, also people's awarenesses, like people awareness and people whatever, like spirituality and just awareness of how that work would have to grow. So
Yeah.
then they would actually not relieve responsibility, but actually take more responsibility in such a way where they act as a good of a whole. So basically
Brother.
what's happening
The,
now, I'm sorry, just one thing. It's like, what's happening
yeah.
now is like they're asking people to relieve their responsibility, to like act for the better of the whole, right? That's basically the spell. If I breathe, you get sick. So I need to,
Yep.
so I need to wear a mask and do all that stuff. But like, if people understood it better, it would be like, hey, I'll take more proactive responsibility to do things that will benefit everybody. So that's basically, we're
Exactly.
getting back to the outer intention and wisdom and all that stuff that we talked about.
For sure, brother. And I wanted to say, what you're describing is actually precisely what we are doing.
Yes.
We are putting ourselves into that process of not relinquishing responsibility, but taking responsibility.
Yes.
That's exactly right. And I also wanted to say that I have about 20 minutes left, so I wanted to jump into
let's talk about
into
the
the
next
last
one.
concept.
Yeah, and then see where we'll go. Yeah.
For sure. So the last concept is the pen, and that's vita mat culpam. And it relates to the Stoic virtue of justice. And how do we enforce justice in this world? Well, we take up the pen and we start writing the proper narrative. We and in our personal lives, what is just is when we put positive narratives on the things that nourish us. So all the things that give us all those things that we work for, through courage, through temperance, through wisdom, all those things that benefit us. Now we're going to write a narrative on that, and we say, this is our story. This is our hero story. These are the important things. These are our morals. These are our boundaries, and these are the important things in life. And we are going to protect that. That's just.
Yes.
And we also use the pen to protect ourselves. So anything that goes against those values, we protect ourselves through our language, through our stories, through our morals, through our boundaries.
Thoughts as
We
well.
say,
Yeah.
we say that doesn't have a place with us here. In this society, in this, if Lions Den was an actual society, we would say the less man do not have a place with us here.
Mm-hmm.
Your unvirtuous behavior doesn't have a place in our society of the Lion's Den. We are not about that. And that's basically what the true justice system should be. The true justice system should protect everyone against all those things that go against our survival, all those things that go against our nourishment, our growth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you are truly just as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And relating this to ad vitam ad coupam basically means for life or into misbehavior. And if you want to know how you can sustain your lifeline for life into misbehavior, sustain that proper lifeline, you have to be a very just person.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted to relate to the concept of riding the wave of fortune.
Mm-hmm.
The person. Okay, so let me talk about the wave of fortune. It's basically when you are on that proper lifeline and
Yes.
you are experiencing
Mm-hmm.
Optimal survival in that lifeline. You have to be a very just person to sustain that. You have to protect it by giving it a static narrative and making that the greatest thing.
Yeah.
And you have to, when people are trying to infringe upon it, you have to also protect it with your language, with your pen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you assume that responsibility of ad vitam ad coupam. I'm going to have this great experience for life until I misbehave. And how do I misbehave? I start neglecting and misbehaving against those things that have actually helped me to get here in the first place. So all those processes, all those things that brought me here in the first place, I'm not properly protecting them. I'm not being just. And that's why I fall off this lifeline and I go into the lower lifeline.
That's true. When you first explained ad vitam ad coupam like that, I figured out where I was messing up. It would be like the phase one is you going strong, yang energy.
Mm-hmm.
Then like after some point, but it's also good like to overextend in that way sometimes, because you expand your ability to see what's possible. Like there is this quote, excess is the mother of wisdom, or something like that. It's like if you think this is what your boundaries are, and then you stay within those, you just think that you don't really know that,
For sure.
when you go too much into one or other side, then you can like actually see what your boundaries are and then expand them. But when we're talking about narratives, it's basically, and it actually relates really well to the concept of fortune, wave of fortune, in that way, but in also another way, which is like,
Do tell, brother.
I mean, it's kind of similar way, but maybe just my representation of it. It's like, it's like whenever something happens, you just give it a desirable story. Because in Transurfing, in a Tufty the Priestess book, he explains it's like he calls it a film roll. In Transurfing, he relates it more to like quantum physics, and then tries to explain it from that point of view, and lifelines and possibilities and stuff like that, probabilities and stuff like that. But then in Tufty the Priestess book, he just explains it like a movie. So you have a mannequin in a certain movie, in a certain script, and then you basically narrate that script. And whenever, and for example, if something happens undesirable that I don't want, I just add it a cool story that will eventually turn with the way for me that I want it to, like a hero story,
For sure.
And I just add like cool narratives to my story. And the thing is,
For sure, brother.
it's actually is actually true, whatever you choose. It's just that we have been given certain narratives that are destructive, and then
Exactly.
they start acting out, they start happening. But we actually hold, as you said, maybe here or in the call in lines, and we hold a pen. So you actually just
sure.
you write down your narrative, and you're like, okay, this is why this happened, this is the narrative. Because
Yep.
whatever you choose narrative to be, it is true. Because not who is going to tell you what the truth is, and that way, with your pen, you actually influence the future. Also, you influence the future a lot. That's the story.
Very
The story
true.
you tell yourself. It's like if I tell myself, if I talk to people, and they're, when people think that they're ugly or are not good looking, and somebody gives them a compliment. It's the example I always like to use. And they're like, and they think it was like a backward compliment. It's like, oh, you're like, oh, nice shoes. And they think it's like, oh, nice shoes, bro. They think it's that one.
Yeah, I
But
see.
it was actually like nice shoes. And it just there how they see it. I mean, it's just a very obvious and like dumbed down example, but it's just how they see it. But from there, you have like two different ways it could go. And then from
Yeah.
there, from their answer, if they answer like, what do you not like them, then I am like, okay, this person is insecure. Then my response is different. It's like a ripple effect.
For
and
sure.
and the only difference was their narrative of it, right?
Yep. Very true.
And the same like tree of ripple effects could be drawn out if they maybe really had ugly shoes, and I said nice shoes, but they thought they were amazing, and they responded from that, even though maybe they were aware I'm doing I'm calling them out, or maybe they weren't. Like if they were aware, I was calling them out, and they responded from there, like whatever, I love them, for example.
Yeah.
Then you see, there are like so many ripple effects, and they all depend on just what do you write with your pen outside the
Tiny
world.
responses.
Yeah, tiny responses, and your mind inside. And
Yep.
it creates this butterfly effect where 10 years from now your life's completely different, and it's just how did you write your story. Wow.
Very true, brother. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah, amazing.
Powerful. And I also want to add to that as a last thing that the story that we're writing, you could also say that it's grounded in the truth, because you cannot argue with survival, and you cannot argue with virtual survival. We know when someone has attained their survival in a way that's very ethical.
Yes.
We know when that's the case.
Yes.
So we will write a narrative about ourselves, and we will hold ourselves to that narrative. And there's no arguing with that. We go for virtuous survival.
Yeah, virtuous survival is
And
a
that's
great thing.
and
Concept.
that's when you pick up the pen, and that's how you maintain that proper lifeline through ad vitam ad culpam.
Yes, amazing. I'm guessing we could like talk for at least an hour or two, and there will be like lots of things more to. We just finished phase 1, and from here we could basically move into phase 2 and all the different things, how we could be applied and stuff like that, maybe in some of the next ones. But since you have to go, I have like a coaching call and stuff like that. It was a pleasure, man. Really powerful insights.
Likewise, brother.
I will listen. Even myself, I will download this one, turn it to MP3, listen to it a few times, and write down the connections between those concepts to integrate them better. If people wanna follow you on Instagram, your Instagram will be probably edited in for the whole interview. Just do that. Follow it. Also, you can check out my Instagram in the description.
Yeah. What I want to say about my Instagram, when you go on it and you like what I said here, go to the highlights and look at the red emblem. When you click on that, you'll find all my articles or my posts really about subjects on this matter.
Yes. After listening to this podcast, you will actually understand what he writes, because at first I could not understand a thing until I watched that call with Arash again. So
I see.
yeah, and after I researched like Stoicism more and like the virtues and everything, then I was like, okay, I get what is going on, and it's really powerful. And the way it actually relates like 100% with Transurfing, which is also really powerful, and how you can use both to see more clearly what you should be doing and not be doing, and what you should be thinking and stuff like that. Wow. And also, yeah, guys, if you wanna like check out my profile, if you wanna hit me up for coaching or anything, shameless plug. And also another thing that I want to say is, if you wanna join Lions Den, the logo that's been on the screen edited in for the whole talk. Yeah, just Google it or whatever, or maybe hit me up. I'll add you to the Telegram group, and then you can attend one of the calls and see. It's led by our
Arash
Dibazar, yeah, who created it, and next level guy.
Even greater at speaking than I am. I'm not really a speaker, I'm more of a writer.
Yes.
But this man is one of the most eloquent, best communicators in the world.
Yeah, definitely.
You will not regret it. You will not regret it if you go on Lions Den. It will improve your life. We'll talk about concepts like this, and it's for men, by the way.
Oh yeah,
men only.
But it's for guys.
If you go there, you will learn the process of character development, and you will have a base to fall upon. When life tries to knock you over, you will have the tools to go through that easily.
Yes.
Easily.
Like it's framed as a relationship thing, but it's like life thing.
For sure.
With an emphasis on relationships, and it will help you enormously with that. Like there is no talk in that. I'm also not like scared to say, or like, because I wasn't really sure way before, but now like I am, like when it comes to the game, to dating, like no, bar none, like the mindsets and the realizations in today's world. Go to Arash. I mean, whenever I hear somebody struggling with relationships, I'm like, and they know English and they're not from Serbia, I'm like, there is this guy, and just go to him. Like, why should I even talk to you about this? So yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. I hope we do this again sometime, and just expand to the next level on whatever insights we might have and stuff like that. Thank you again, and guys, thank you for watching. Subscribe, and see you next time.